Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to another exciting episode of Psychology Talks. And today we're going to discuss the spiritual side and the neurosciences side and the intersection of both of these. And I was looking forward to this episode because this topic is very close to my heart. Having this to discuss actually the intersection between science and spirituality was something that I was deeply interested and I'm still interested. I'm looking forward to this discussion. So I know that lots of our audience are also very much keenly interested in this topic. So I'm sure you're gonna enjoy and you're gonna love this discussion. And that's why I have one of the extraordinary guests with us. Her name is Dr. Deborah. She is an acclaimed author, international speaker whose work challenges how we understand dementia, memory, and consciousness. She is a scholar, award winning author, internationally recognized speaker on spirituality, dementia, grief, and transformative power of quantum energy. With over 2 decades of exploration and two powerful books, Deborah bridges the gap between neurosciences, spirituality, and compassionate caregiving. So let's welcome Dr. Deborah. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's really an honor to have you with us. As I actually just said, that I was really, really looking forward to this conversation because it is something that is very close to my heart. And I actually gave a very short introduction about you, but tell us about your journey, that how you got into this, how you started, and maybe you can share that what challenges you faced.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I started out working as a nurse in hospitals in the States, and my spiritual journey began several decades ago when I had a young girl who had had open heart surgery in a major Midwestern hospital, and she got into trouble. And I was living in Atlanta, Georgia at the time, and she was brought to the doctors at the hospital where I worked, and she had had open heart surgery, and our plan was to repair the patch that was on part of one of her blood vessels. To fast forward on that story, the girl, when they opened her up,
I think I lost Dr. Deborah. I'm not sure whether it's my internet playing or it's on her side, but I feel that I lost her. Let me see that if she's still live on this, then I can actually see. These are the technical glitches that we actually always encounter when we do either live show or any part of, like, especially this is, I think, nowadays technology has really empowered us, but at the same time these glitches can happen anytime and it can happen to anyone, no matter how many episodes you've done, how many times you go online. These are the part of our internet culture or the internet. This is There is a blessing and there is, of course, there is something that we have some drawbacks as well. So just let me see that if she is still there, or maybe I need to email her. Let's see. I think I need to email her to see that if she's there. Anyway, so we were actually discussing the spiritual side of her journey. She has an amazing. She has written two amazing books, and she actually created this intersection between spirituality and neuroscience, which was really uh, attracted me, and that's why I invited her to the show. And her latest book is which is available on Amazon and all those on all those books on all those places where the books are available. So her book is about like she has shared this spiritual side in a very different way, because she actually shared three stories, and through stories she shared that how one can heal through traumas or through dementia or through memory loss. So this is something that was very interesting. But let's let's talk about that. What is spirituality? What is quantum energy? And how it affects our well-being, because it's not what I see is it's not only linked to our to memory, or it's directly linked to our complete entire well-being. How, like, as I always say, that we are a spiritual being, like, mainly we are a spiritual being, and we if when we actually realize this fact, we actually gain or achieve our superpowers. Because till the moment we think that we are physical beings living in this 3D world, that means that we will only go as far as this 3D world will allow us. But the moment we realize that we are more than just 3D world, we are more than these physical realms, then we can actually go beyond that. And that's how I feel that these energies work. I think,
I'm
hi,
back.
welcome back.
The universe did not want me to tell that
Yeah.
story, so I'll move on if there's still time. I apologize. My computer had a mind of its own.
That's fine, no problem.
Okay.
No problem. These are the things that can happen to anyone, anytime. So no worries at all. I'm glad that you're back. So,
Thank
anyways,
you. Thank
let's
you.
continue our conversation. Yeah, let's continue our
Well,
conversation. So, you were
I,
telling us about your journey.
I was. It started in a hospital with a young girl dying, and I watched her die in front of me,
Oh,
and then I had to take her to where we take deceased children. And it started me thinking about how the essence of life and the soul. And I had already lost a number of family members by then, but this particular girl had a profound impact on me. And her story is in the first book that I wrote called Symphony of Spirits: Encounters with the Spiritual Dimensions of Alzheimer's.
mhm.
Fast forward, I was in graduate school. I was taking training with Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote the book on death and dying, and created the five stages of uh, loss and grieving. And as I told you in our earlier conversation, I had a major automobile accident that caused me to have a near-death experience. And I literally, for un, I can't tell you how much time I watched. I left my body. I was over a
Oh,
very large field of children playing baseball. I watched the people trying to rescue me, and my sister was among them. And I was around me. I became aware of these white entities, figures. Um, I didn't do the proverbial walk through the tunnel like so many people with near death experiences have reported. Mine was different. Um, I remember going back into my body, and I had a severe traumatic brain injury, which totally altered my life. The near death experience, I had read some pieces about that because I had Dr. Kubler-Ross was also a friend of Raymond Moody's, and Dr. Raymond Moody was the fellow who wrote the original book on near-death experiences and sort of started that global movement. But I never anticipated experiencing it myself. Um, I saw the world differently, as everyone else who's had a near-death experience reported. I did not want to come back. It was beautiful. Um, the energy was different. I had I, I was given messages, but to this day, I don't know what they are. There was only one that I was told, and that was the important thing, the most important thing that we as humans on Earth have to do is love each other and pay attention to the relationships that we have. And moving forward from there, um, my world was completely different. I finished graduate school. I got my PhD in clinical psychology. I went on to do a fellowship in aging at the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. And it was a very straightforward academic setting. The physician who was head of that program was the foremost authority on Alzheimer's brains in the world. And he taught me a lot about the neurosciences and the ins and outs of a person who encounters Alzheimer's disease, as well as the other types of dementia. And I can talk for hours on that subject, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Um, at that particular time, I was working. I had my doctoral dissertation was in grief. I did a research study with Dr. Kubler-Ross's death and dying groups, and proved that what she was doing with her grieving clients or people who came to work with her, um, that there's more going on than we understand, more going on than what I was being trained in the field of neuroscience and neuropsychology at the University of Kentucky. But because I was in a straightforward academic program, being paid to do research on Alzheimer's disease, I did not talk about the spiritual component that I had come to know from my car wreck and from my near death experience. There were a number of families who cornered me in the closed rooms and told me stories about their loved one who had some type of dementia. Mostly they were Alzheimer's. Again, a lot of those stories and some of those stories are related in Symphony of Spirits. Um, but they would tell me stories that I learned to differentiate. There's a contextual difference between hallucinations, of which everybody around the globe, I think, are familiar with the concept of hallucinations. There's a difference when you have a spiritual experience or a spiritual encounter. And that's one of the things that I stressed heavily and going forward because there was a difference. But I was, as I think I told you, shortly after my fellowship, I was diagnosed with a severe lung infection, which they didn't know that whether it was small cell carcinoma or a lung infection. So I wrote the first book thinking that if I passed on, I would at least be able to share the knowledge that I had gained from my experiences and from being trained by a group of Native American nurses that I worked with in a geriatric hospital in Atlanta. Um, that book was published. I traveled extensively to promote that book. Shortly after that, my husband developed bone marrow cancer. Spirituality became a normal way of life for me. And when he passed away, I had another experience. I don't know quite how you would call it. I had a spiritual experience and an encounter with him after he passed away. And he gave me several concrete messages that to this day I hold very dear. And it gave me more proof, not that I needed it, but it was another element of proof that there is a spiritual component and that our souls do live beyond our time here on earth. Another fellow that I encountered along the way used to say that we are spiritual beings in a human body here to learn lessons. And that became sort of a mantra for me. And that's how my second book, which is called Touch the Spirit, encounters connecting to the inner world of dementia. Because a lot of people who have family members with dementia are very frustrated because the general norm is when you get some type of dementia, especially Alzheimer's, the person that they knew slips away. And in the course of writing those first two books, I encountered another Native American elder who pointed out to me that the heart hears. Um, Truly, it hears. And so I began teaching people or telling people as I traveled around the world to, if you have a loved one with Alzheimer's, speak to their heart, give them the message, say the things that you've always wanted to say to them. That message will be carried from their heart to their brain, and it will register somewhere in their brain. And at that point in history, when I was talking about that kind of thing, I had not gotten into the deep research I ultimately did on consciousness and brain and thought patterns and quantum physics, which is what my last book is about, Cosmic River. Um, and when I began to tell people that they could speak to the person's heart, and the words would be translated by the person's hearing and heart mechanisms and taken to their brain, there was a sense of peace that came over the family members and the loved ones. And a lot of people would tell me later that they did exactly what I suggested that they do once they got all of their unspoken words, which Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was very adamant about taking care of unfinished business. Once they got their unfinished business taken care of, the quality of their relationships changed. And they had very pleasant, positive experiences right up until the end. But we need to move on because you have other things that you wanted to discuss besides Alzheimer's and that
Yeah,
aspect.
yeah,
I will tell you this, that I do not see the world the same anymore. And I have diligently tried over the last 20 plus years to try to create a bridge between the neuroscience, which I understand and clearly advocate there, that's a real element of our existence, and the spiritual component, which is equally as important to a person with dementia or any kind of neurological disorder or traumatic
yeah.
brain injury, as in my case. Now I'll stop
Your
talking.
your journey and your research is very fascinating, and I'm sure that this is like it's very much relatable, as like even Michael Stagg said that his wife had a similar experience of near death experience, and he said that it was very difficult for her to come back and was eventually pushed back to this realm. So I mean, these are the things that a lot of people actually
Hmm.
experience, but maybe because of the logic or because of some people just irrationality, they don't speak up very openly, and they're often asked to shut up, and because they said they need to think in a different way. So I'm so glad that you're talking about all these stuff. Yeah. So if
That
you
same thing happened to me. And
Okay.
one of the people that I talked with a lot right after my car wreck was a girl that I had been in training with doing Kubler Ross's death and dying training, and it was just more than she could process, and I respected that, but it left me in a very unusual place. But I have grown to understand, and eventually, through working with a group of Aboriginal people, I came to understand who those and there was a lady in Ireland who talks to angels, and I attended a lecture in Wales that she talked about her experiences with angels, and I began to understand that what my encounter in that first traumatic brain injury was an encounter with a host of angels that swooped in and protected me, I guess you might say.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So I
But
just want to ask basically, especially like because we're talking about this Alzheimer and dementia. So why? you chose to study more on dementia and Alzheimer. So, what's the link between the neuroscience and spirituality and the Alzheimer, to be on in particular? So,
I had what led me. I grew up. Let me back up. I grew up with elderly parents and grandparents. My father was 50 when I was born, so
oh,
I
wow.
was familiar with dementia, but I didn't know it was dementia. It was just a part of aging. Um, After my car wreck, I had absence seizures for a year and a half, and I had traumatically induced a form of dementia, as as one understands the definition of dementia. And I was searching for a better understanding for myself of what was going on, because I was trying to balance the changes in my brain and my body and my speech patterns, for example, and my spiritual components that I'd had with a near death experience. And that's been a journey that I'm still on. Um, I don't know if that gets to what you were
Yeah.
asking, but
Okay, so yeah, that's what gets you, into this to understanding dementia and everything, right? So yeah, so especially, yeah, you mentioned that what have you observed in people with dementia that challenges the traditional neurological, I would say, models?
well, dementia as a function, as a element of a brain disorder, either neurodegenerative brain disorder, or in my case, as a traumatically induced dementia from an injury. The difference comes. Let me as simply as I can put it. Because I studied in a traditional academic center, and the neurosciences look at the function of the disease within the body and within the brain and the alterations. And they believe that the general belief is that once you get some type of Alzheimer's or frontal temporal lobe dementia or vascular dementia or any of the other types of 40 or 50 or 60, 70 different kinds of dementia that we now know about, uh, the general consensus is that that person is just basically gone. And my premise from that very first book on up until now is that there is a soul, there is an energy, there's an essence of the person that's still in that body. As long as that person is breathing, there's a way to communicate with them. And it may be that you communicate, as I said, that the Native American elder taught me, you speak to the heart and the body hears. Along
Yeah,
the way, I attended a presentation by the Dalai Lama and a group of researchers that he had commissioned to look at compassion and the neurological, psychological, and neuropsychological elements of compassion and how those came into existence and how to work with them. And one of the pieces of their research that sort of lit up my world was when they began talking about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve connects the brain and the heart and other bodily organs. And the vagus nerve carries information to and from the brain and the heart. Uh, Take it another direction, there's a group out of California called Heart Math that has done a lot of neuropsychological research on the heart, and they've discovered that the heart has its own electrical system and its own communication system. And more recently, because I track them and I trend their research a lot, they one of their researchers pointed out that the diagram they show states that there's an energetic body that comes out of the heart that extends at least 6 feet out, all the way around the body, up and around and around. It's like a
yeah,
bubble that's 6 feet out.
yeah,
And it's an energetic body that is totally separate and unique to the heart, separate from the brain completely. And what
yeah,
they recently said, we, we, we tell people it's 6 feet because we don't have any instruments to measure the distance that that energetic mode goes beyond 6 feet. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you,
that's very fascinating. Yeah.
yes, it is. And that's one of, and we've got a lot of the research done on the cognition and what happens with the brain when the brain degenerates through those diseases. And and having worked with so many different types of people with dementia, I know that each person's dementia is unique to their brain, and its symptoms and its manifestations are different consistently. The element that's the same in everybody is that they have a soul, they have an essence, they have the energy, this entity that gives them life. And when their soul leaves that body, however you choose to understand that and make sense out of that, the soul takes the message with them into whatever dimensions, whatever place that you as your belief system allows you to understand that the soul goes to, either to another entity, back to the creator, to another dimension, to heaven, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not for me to say it is, but it is for me to say and point out that we do have a soul, we do have an essence. It's the spiritual part of our existence, and it's very real. And it doesn't matter. And I say this because I've got a great niece who has a mitochondrial disorder, and she's 12 years old and she shouldn't have lived past 3. And I've watched her as well. There's an essence in that person that communicates somehow with the outside world. And it's not for me or other people to say who's right and who's wrong. It is for me to say that there is a soul there. You can communicate with it. The neuroscience is doing wonderful things in terms of research to better understand what the diseases are that are ravaging the human body. Um, One of the
Yeah.
questions that you
Sorry.
submitted to me
Yeah.
was, oh,
Yeah, this actually I wanted to ask about the quantum energies because now we are talking about all the energy that you because you mentioned you've written about the quantum energy in your book. So tell us a bit more about it and explain that what exactly the quantum energy is.
well, I'm about to sneeze. Quantum energy it is the best I can do in terms of a simple description is it's an unseen energy force that surrounds the earth. It surrounds each person. It's an element that is part of the earth, the plants, the water, the animals. And it, I won't go into plasma. There's a researcher by the name of, let me look at my notes here, Dr. Robert Temple out of London, who has done a seminal book on quantum physics and plasma. And that's a plasma is a fourth, fifth element of existence, which I don't want to complicate things because when I get into that type of discussion, I lose a lot of people who just they don't have they don't have an interest in that. But it suffice it to say, if we're talking about an unseen energy, the quantum realm deals with unseen energy that is around us all the time, has an influence on us. The reason I wrote the book Cosmic River, the cosmic river is a cosmic river. It's a flow of energy that comes to us from the universe. And if you happen to be fortunate enough to tap into that and become aware of how each of us are connected to that unseen energy, um, marvelous things can happen. Dr. Deepak Chopra, excuse me,
Yeah.
Deepak Chopra has just come out with a couple of new books on the quantum elements of healing. He does a very good job of that. He uses his cultural background to understand and try to describe how that unseen energy works in the human body. I take it from another researcher, Penny Kelly, who did a deep research study on consciousness. She's published 3 books on the concept of consciousness and how it interfaces with the human body. I can tell you from the doctors that I have worked with and continue to work with across the country, the general belief system is that going forward, quantum energy and the use of frequencies and sound will become the tools of healthcare treatment going forward. And our days of doing slicing the vagus nerve to stop ulcers from forming is history. And the traditional, and I'm still balancing some of this myself because I've worked in operating rooms for many, many decades, and I understand the elements of illnesses and diseases and surgically repairing the diseases, and that's going away. Over
Yeah.
time, it's going away.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know
Yeah,
if I.
that's no problem. I know that like now from the discussion, like I know that I haven't actually submitted this question, but this is like now from the discussion that you've been doing, it's coming to my mind that you said that of course I'm a firm believer that there is a soul, and we are kind of having that experience. But one question that is or that always comes to my mind when I actually think of a soul, especially in terms of consciousness, that where exactly is the consciousness? I mean, is it in this physical body, or is it in the soul, which may be not in our body? It's maybe somewhere outside. So, where exactly it is, and then who is in charge?
Whew, okay, let me
Yeah.
start by saying that was one of the questions that I wrangled with to be as I began to undertake the writing of this last book, Cosmic River, because consciousness is an unseen energy force. And there are so many different people who have so many different descriptions or understandings of consciousness that it gets very confusing. It
Yeah.
gets very, very confusing. I chose a research done by Dr. Penny Kelly. Anybody who wants her information on her research can buy my book Cosmic River, because I list her research, her textbooks in the back of my book. um,
Okay.
Consciousness is an unseen, and this is my definition and my understanding. Consciousness is an unseen energy force that is all around us. We are now understanding that the universe as a whole has a consciousness that we're just beginning to understand. Uh, a lot of neuroscience researchers will tell you that consciousness is in the brain. The heart math people will tell you that the consciousness is in the heart. The endocrinology people will tell you that there's a consciousness in the gut that feeds a phenomena called the intuition.
Yeah.
And I surmise it to be an unseen energy force that we are all a part of, that helps to guide us either directly or indirectly. And as the universe didn't want me talking about that girl earlier, it shut me down, and I had to work my way back. And I've gotten used to doing that, but that's okay. Um, it's much larger. I can tell you from my own research and my own understanding, consciousness as a phenomena is a very large a large phenomena that we are just beginning to try to understand, and it may be decades before we do. And please don't ask me about AI, because it filters into consciousness as well, and I'm just not well read enough on AI to try to comment on that. But the human body
Yeah.
is the human body has a consciousness that guides us. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. Like I can like what I try to understand, or about what I thought that is basically I got the message from this discussion is that this consciousness is resides in in the quantum realm, I would say, or the quantum energy that
Yes.
speaks to us. So I think that's what my understanding is so
Yes.
far. That basically I was just thinking that. And what I actually also like, since when you were you when you were actually went out from this show, that I started sharing my opinion on this spirituality. And that's what
Good.
I was just thinking, that because my book, the first book, is kind of speak to this, or address to this. And what my point of view is that, that we have this kind of, we have soul, that is undeniable. And that is, of course,
Yes.
this is because, and and that is what I think, that this is our superpower, that we need to all embrace our superpowers, because otherwise we will be stuck in this 3D or physical world, and then we will be responding to this 3D world in only in a physical way. So I think that's one thing that we all need to realize, that we are much more than just these physical bodies.
That I agree with you 1000%. That is the reason I wrote the book The Cosmic River, is because so many people don't understand that this consciousness that we're talking about, it is our superpower. And this, I have 5 stories in that book where I talk, and they're stories about 5 different people from vastly different walks of life who had what they call they experienced an aha moment where they began to understand that they had this power, access to this unseen energy, this consciousness in their world. And once they tapped into it and allowed it to help guide them, their lives transformed beyond anything. All of them said that it transformed them beyond anything they could have possibly ever imagined. So it is a superpower, and more as we move from these multiple dimensions, from 3D dimension to 4, 5, 6. And I just read something the other day where somebody was looking at 37 different dimensions, which is a little bit more. I can process 11 myself because of the research that I've done and the work I've done and my traumatic brain injuries. I've had more than one, so I have a different perspective. But it is a superpower, and it can be, once you begin to understand what you're talking about, and it can take you to a different place in the universe and allow you to have a much more, I'll say, exciting, fulfilling life.
Yeah, yeah. Matthew is really, thanks for joining, Matthew. And he's also a very good friend, and he's also enjoying our conversation. And it's a very good comment. The quantum debate collapses into the age old theological debate.
Yes.
Was the create was there a creator or not? The AI, the quantum, or otherwise, will awaken and realize we are its creator, and it will get like angry. The question will always remain: who or what created us? Yes, I think that's the age old
Yes.
question that we are. I think all of us have this curiosity, that who
Mhm.
created us, or why are we here? And then again, this goes on and on and on. And I think that's why we all are here. And we need to actually carry forward this thinking, and not get lost in all those like daily routines of like having, or to go to just to work and come back and watch Netflix and sleep. I think there is much more to life other than this routine, and we
Yes.
need to discover who we are, instead of just going on an autopilot mode.
Well, I agree. And in that discovery process, begin to understand and discover the talents that each one of us have, that we came here with, to use in whatever fashion we came here for, whatever purpose is. Um, and again, because of the people that I worked with, they agree that you have a quality of life, and it's a transformative process, that rather than sticking with the grind of a 9 to 5, 8-hour day, 12-hour day, whatever, and that there can be more to life than just
Yeah.
the things that we've been taught in the past. I'll leave it at
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I know this is such a fascinating topic and it requires so many hours of discussion instead of summing up in just 30 to 40 minutes. But I'm afraid that we are running out of time. Maybe we need to plan another show to continue our discussion because this is very dear to my heart. But
Lovely.
yeah, since we are running out of time, what one piece of advice would you like to give to our audience today?
We do have a soul, we do have an energy, and we have the availability of tapping into these quantum unseen energies that people are beginning to talk about and create a better life for ourselves than we've had in the past.
Yes, I completely agree, and that's such a wonderful advice. If they understand this phenomenon, I think I'm sure it will change their lives completely. Not something, and if they want to change their life, they need to understand this. I think
That's true.
there is no other way to change uh, change their lives. I mean, if people try to find out so many ways, going after, I don't know, so many things, but I think they just need to understand it. They all their capabilities, their superpowers lie within themselves. They just need to explore
Absolutely.
that, and that's it. Or maybe they can just find it in the universe. If they just find that inner connection with the universe,
Yes.
it's all theirs. That's really fascinating that how it works. Yeah. So anyways, I know that I love this discussion and I love your book. I'm gonna get your book. I've been so delayed on not getting your book because of so many things going on, but your book and your discussion is and your work is really really fascinating, to be
Thank you.
honest. So, and those who are interested to get in touch with Dr. Deborah, please, this sticker is going under this screen. Please get in touch with her through her website. And maybe you're very active on LinkedIn, I guess, right? What is
Yes.
the best way to actually connect with you?
Well, the website is the best, but I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and
Okay.
I am available to do individual sessions if people want to do that. You can sign if you go to my website and sign up, give me your name, you will get a free book called The Pearls of Wisdom from the Cosmic River. And we can do that. I'm also working on putting together some group workshops probably in the new year. Um, but send me an email. I'll get back in touch with you and we'll go from there. And if you and I can do another podcast at some point in the
Sure.
future, I would love to do that. I've
Yeah,
truly enjoyed
definitely.
this so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Likewise, I would really love to do another one. Maybe we'll just share my calendar link with you again and we'll see that how it goes because I love this discussion. It actually energizes me. It
Yes.
helps me open up my mind to think in a different way, or maybe it's something that it 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 reminds me of who we are and
Hmm.
why we are here on earth. So that's just really fascinating. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining. It was an honor. It was a wonderful discussion, and thanks to Matthew and Michael and those who are actually joined our conversation and shared their comments with us. And those, even if you're watching it recording, thank you so much for watching us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.